Welcome to the Imperfect Dads Podcast. This is your host, Devin. We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids, but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like. Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood and how they feel like they're holding it together or how they're not. Thank you for joining us for this episode. On this episode, we have on Jason Pipkin. Jason is a master's in clinical mental health counseling, and he sees clients virtually and in person in Tennessee. Asked Jason to talk about postpartum depression with men, but before that, I wanted to get to know a little bit about his life. We talked about his time as a touring musician in the Lone Bellow, his decision to go back to school, his experience being the stay-at-home or primary parent, the struggle to find community when you become a dad, and a lot of the discussion on what happens to your identity and mental state when you first become a dad. If you're interested in talking to Jason for counseling, please make sure to follow his Instagram at Good Heart Mental Health. And also just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad. Perfect. Welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Dads Podcast. So this week's guest is Jason. Is it Pipkin? Is that your last name? Is that right?
That's my name. You got it right the first try.
Yes, that's good. Jason, welcome. Thanks for being willing to do an episode.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's exciting stuff.
It is. Basically, so for listeners, I wanted to talk to Jason about postpartum male depression and all the aspects that go into that. But, you know, it's a first date, so we shouldn't start with that intense of a topic. Jason, to get to know you a little bit, how many kids do you have, ages, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old boy. My wife and I were on the road touring as musicians while we had this child, and I stayed on the road till he was about 3. Then COVID happened, and everything changed. But yeah, proud dad. He's at space camp right now over at the Adventure Science Center. So yeah, loving this age. It's great.
Nice. Whenever you were a kid, did you get to do fun things like space camp and like cool things like that?
I don't think so. Like we did vacations. We would do like family week at the beach or something, but we didn't do a lot of camps. We weren't really a camp family. Some families are camp families.
Mm-hmm. We weren't either. I feel like we would do like maybe a week-long like summer camp through like our church or something like that, or vacation Bible schools. But yeah, like my kids get to do so much more cool camps. Like, oh, here's your week of tennis camp. And I'm like, I didn't even own a tennis racket whenever I was a kid. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's like my son has done taekwondo. He's done breakdancing.
What?
He's done ninja warrior class. Like just
cool.
like weird stuff that was not available to me as a kid.
No, I think my parents both worked full time. So it was kind of like, hey, here's all the frozen food in the freezer. Try to not only watch TV today and don't burn down the house. And your older brother's in charge. We'll see you in about 8 hours.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for building resilience with things like that too. So don't knock independence and the freezer and being alone all day.
That's right. No, I very much know how to cook and have known how to cook probably since I was like 9 or 10 because of that.
Yeah, there you go.
What's your son into besides space camp, or what are some like activities you like to do with him?
Lego.
Yeah.
Lego. I'm trying to say it correctly. I want to say Legos.
There's no plural.
But people have told me often that I'm not allowed to do that. So I'm gonna respect. It's their culture, not mine. So I'll respect the way they like to self-describe Lego culture.
Yes.
We went to Legoland at the beginning of the summer. It was really fun. But he is Lego obsessed. We will build and then play with what we built and then tear it down and make new things. That's the world we live in right now.
How many days of the week do you step on Lego pieces accidentally?
Every single day. Every single day. My son has learned some colorful language from my interactions with his Lego pieces.
Even seriously, I thought it was hilarious. I was walking down the steps to get set up for the call and everything, and totally stepped on a Lego piece on the way down here. And I'm like, it's just content. It's also a lot of pain in my foot, but mostly content for the podcast.
And he's seen Home Alone, the scene with the micro machines.
Oh, yeah.
So he thinks it's hilarious when I step on a Lego. He's like, gotcha.
And it's like, okay, now I'm not trying to like ruin the vibe, but like, did you actually throw Legos on the ground here in hopes I would step on them? Like I have to understand your intentions here a little bit, man.
Yeah. Yeah. He loves booby traps and pranks if he can pull them off. That's like he wants to be a scamp. It's funny because he's really a rule follower. Like
Uh,
he wants to know the rules. He does not get in trouble at school, but secretly, like just beneath that surface, there's a boy who desperately wants to pull pranks and do funny things and be silly. He just has this like yin and yang about him, and the yang comes out at home, and the yin is there at school.
I mean, people always say like that just means you're the safe space. You're the safe space for him in which he can terrorize you with Legos on the ground. That's what they're trying to tell you.
Yes, I we had this little tradition. He got really he got really into. I wrestle with him a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Studies have shown that when men play with their children, like wrestling and stuff, it releases oxytocin in kids the same way that when a mother is nurturing that same thing. So there's like so I try to roughhouse with him a lot, and he loves like running at me as hard as he can or like punching me. And I said, buddy, I like playing with you like this, but if you're going to punch me, I need you to look me in the eye, make eye contact first
Yeah,
so that I can tense my
yeah.
stomach if it's going to go for my stomach. And he was like, okay. And so every day after that, there would be a moment where he'd be like, hey, Dad. And I'd be like, what? And he's just looking at me, smiling. And I'm like, oh, my son, he's looking at me. What do you need, buddy? And before I say what, he's like,
Oh, yeah. Just straight sucker punch.
I forgot that I gave you permission to make eye contact and punch me. So I'm trying to get out of that arrangement now. I think we're mostly there.
It's so my kids also like I think a lot of having kids is setting rules and setting guidelines and then realizing how you need to tweak that. Because yeah, I 100% will do that to my kids also. Though like they for a while they're like push me in the back or something like that as a joke. I'm like, don't like pushing people in the back is never a nice thing to do. You can't do that. So then they're like, hey, I'm behind you, and then push me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's with you let that's not the message I meant to send.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. How do you encourage that wildness and make room for playing around and for roughhousing, and also keep your health, not
Yeah.
break anything, not be sucker punched repeatedly in the gut. Like there's a fine line there, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes there's temper associated when you
Yes.
when you get hurt and you weren't expecting to. It's like a
Yeah. Yep.
uncontrolled response that just comes out
Yeah.
sometimes.
I think I did that the first time. I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old and 7-year-old daughter and an almost 4-year-old son. And yeah, there's one time the 7-year-old like pushed me in the back, like did the full arm extension push. And I like turned, it's like, and I was like, she doesn't know what she did. She was trying to engage in play. But that took me by surprise. And some primal part of me was like, I don't like this. So communicate that
Yeah.
kindly and
Yeah.
take a breath.
Yeah. I mean, even, we have the sweetest dog in the world, beautiful giant Bernese Mountain Dog, and he loves kids. He's so good with kids. But if a kid walks up behind him and pulls his tail, that
No
growl
thanks.
comes out. He doesn't, it's not even think about it. It's hardwired into us when pain happens to
Yes.
turn and find the source of that.
Yes.
So that's always a line to walk. That's a fun one.
Yeah. Have you had the moment yet? I've had experience to my kids of like, hey, just so you know, you're old enough and big enough that it actually hurts when you do this. Like you're not no longer a little kid who we're playing around in roughhouse. And when you punch me in the stomach, it legitimately hurts. So like, how do I
know.
teach you
Yeah.
this? Because it's no longer that fun for me whenever you punch me in the gut.
There's a piece of me too that really wants to be invincible dad, that like does not want to admit that it hurts.
It hurts.
And that it's like, yeah, and there's like a whole like, okay, you need to make sure I'm ready, rather than saying that really hurts every time, no matter what. Like I'm not ready to say that yet. Right now, I'm just like, let me know so I can get ready. And then maybe in a few more years, I'll have to draw a hard line and be like, absolutely no, never.
We'll just see you in the gym every day working on your abs. So you can have like they're like, are you trying to look good in shape? I'm like, no, my son, he punches hard. He punches real. And I need to have some more protections in my gut against it.
The other day I got out of the shower, and my son was seeing me in the towel, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, can I see your abs?" And I was like, "You've been watching too many superhero
Yes,
movies.
you have.
A lot of men don't have abs. Most men don't have
Most
abs."
men do
He's
not
like,
have
really?
abs. Yeah.
He was genuinely surprised,
Aw.
and there was also a part of me that was like, I feel like I should be like, I feel like I should have abs,
Yeah.
for my son
Yeah, sure.
to
Yeah,
be
yeah. For your son.
proud.
Man, that's a fun aspect of just whenever you have little kids to be like, hey, this is what you're going to think a male body should look like for most of your life because this is what you see on a daily basis as well as your own. And you're like, should I not eat as many cookies? Oh, but I really love cookies. How do I
Yeah,
do this?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what made you get off or made you stop being on the road because it seems like what in 2020 you said you pivoted from more
Mhm.
music life to being like, hey, what's the next chapter? What's the next phase of my life?
Yeah. So my partner and I were living in New York and we fell in with this band. We started a band called the Lone Bellow with some friends and toured for, God, it was like 10, 12 years. We were actually on the road in Seattle, Vancouver, and Portland in those very early days of the pandemic when they were the first three cities to
Oh
shut
yeah,
down. It was
that's
like
right. Yeah.
we would play there one night and then the next night everything was shut down. We would play there. And we had our 3-year-old out on the road in our tour bus. And we thought it was going to be a couple weeks off the road. We
Hmm.
had a full year of touring planned, and it turned out to be way longer than that. And so we all had to pivot. But I think during that time, 10 years on the road is a long time. And I'd seen every city I wanted to see and didn't want to see 3, 4, 5 times. And so I felt like it was a good. Before we kind of landed on the band, honestly, a little bit by accident. It wasn't like the plan from the get go. Before that, I had been considering becoming a therapist. And so this was like a return to form for me. I went to school, enrolled on an online school for master's in mental health counseling. And my partner continued to tour, and I was like the stay-at-home parent, more or less, who, I took our son to kindergarten and first grade and, kind of held down the fort at home while I was doing school and doing some work on the side. So that was kind of the dynamic and the way it shifted for us. But Nashville is a place where there are ex-musicians doing everything.
Hmm.
It's really
Yep.
interesting, the career pivots, but a lot of them become therapists, honestly. In fact, when I think of the original lineup of our band, one guy who produced some stuff for us early on and played keys became a therapist and is practicing now. And then another guy who used to play bass for us became a therapist as well.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
like I don't know what the connection is, but I think they involve a lot of similar skills.
Hmm.
You're creating space for people to feel their emotions.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. And you're guiding them through it. You're trying to create a song or something like that, or a catalyst or prompt that makes people connect with parts of themselves they might be ignoring and hopes that they then get in tune with it, express it, and, you know, for the rest of the day, like, hey, this is part of me. I should probably explore this a little bit.
Yeah, there's something there happening with resonance where
Yeah.
you are creating a space where something that resonates with people gets amplified when you mirror that to them. And it's beautiful. It's amazing when it happens. I found myself toward the end of my time touring, I'd look out at the audience and I'd see people having these big reactions like crying or like, just like joy or dancing or whatever. And I would wonder, like, especially when I saw people just weeping, I would wonder, like, who is that guy and what is his story
Of
exactly?
course. Yeah.
And it's a one-way relationship. Like, you don't really get to know what's happening. But I feel like as I got more and more curious, I was like, the next chapter is going on the like micro level, like finding specific individuals and hearing their stories and seeing what they want to do, seeing if I can journey with them a little bit.
Yeah. That's also funny because I feel like I've never like performed music or toured or anything like that. I went to Belmont, so definite music kid, study production, nerd, nerd, nerd.
Mhm.
But I've had those moments with musicians if I've gotten to meet them in which they've gotten that reaction out of me. And I'm trying to sum up, like, I want to tell them that, like, hey, this is what your art does to people. But then I'm like, that's a really intense first discussion. Like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm a big fan of the Get Up Kids, and they're from Lawrence, Kansas. And my wife
Mhm.
went to Kansas for grad school. And I remember meeting their lead singer and wanting to be like, hey, my wife went to grad school in Lawrence. I love Lawrence because of your music. Here's like 20 thoughts. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just a
Yeah.
random dude at a show, man. Just shake his hand and say good show. Like you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. But, it actually, I actually really loved hearing
Did you?
ways,
Okay.
specific ways that the music connected. I mean, we had people talk about funerals where our songs were
Yeah.
played, or weddings, or
Yeah.
there was one woman who said, "You were on my birth playlist," and my son
That's
came
new.
out to
That's new. That's cool.
one of your songs. And I was like, awesome. Like, you never know when you put these things out in the world, you never know how people are going to grab onto them. And I think like hearing that, when it's Groundhog Day in some way and you wake up every day and drive and set up the gear, play the show, those individual stories for me help me. They're inspiring to me to see what the music is doing, that it's actually connecting.
Because I mean, yeah, I guess to some extent, you're creating art, you're putting it out there, and just hoping that it connects. Like you'll show up in the town to play the show, and you're like, I know people bought tickets. Hopefully, they show up with the tickets, and hopefully
Yeah.
they like this. But here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I am currently a stay-at-home dad. My two older girls are in school, and I stay home with my son before he goes to pre-K. And how did you feel like the transition from road life, musician, all that, to more being the primary parent was once you started to get into that world?
It wasn't easy. It was definitely
Yeah.
an adjustment to make. There was a lot there I had to
Yeah.
confront, and a lot of assumptions about gender roles that I
Mhm.
had to they were being subverted. And I definitely at times felt pretty alone because there were a lot of moms whose husbands toured, but there weren't a lot of husbands whose wives toured. And so that was definitely kind of a lonely spot for me for a while. I did start going to therapy then, and it's part of what pushed me to finally go get my degree because it was so effective.
Cool.
And it really helped me during that time to work through some of what I was dealing with. So yeah, I mean, I guess the real answer is I really valued and treasured that special time
Mhm.
with my son. It was There aren't a lot of dads that get to have so much FaceTime with
Mhm.
young children, and it's something that you'll never get back. So I was very thankful for that, and still am very thankful. We have a really strong bond that's unique. And also it was challenging. It was lonely, and it made me kind of face some of my areas that I hadn't really looked into in my own life.
Whenever I became a stay-at-home dad in 2019, and I think one of the biggest gender role, whatever things I had to get over was just being honest with myself of, hey, your wife is better at careers than you are. Like her opportunities make more money than the opportunities you found.
Hmm.
So like you're not a failure because you can't make more money than your wife. It's just the reality of what the life is that you guys are building. So what's like to me a good definition of masculinity or healthy in my mind is what can I do that supports my family the best and what can make everyone as mentally present as possible. And if I can play a role to lead us there, that's what I should care about. If that's being home with the kids, awesome. If that's me finding a job, awesome. But that's like I had to change what I had to redefine what success was to me as a father in ways I didn't expect to redefine.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's great. I love the definition that you came up with. That's a really good one, supporting the family in the best way that you're able to. And I think that's something that gets, unfortunately, views of masculinity get politicized.
Uh-huh.
And there's movements and people, tons of people, even progressive people who would say yes, gender equality, but I don't know about a
Uh-huh.
man staying home. I don't know
Yep.
about that. Like that feels wrong to me. That feels bad. And yeah, it's a real kind of stigma that can sometimes feel lonely. I'm glad that you were able to search and find like that kind of
Yeah.
definition and kind of support for your own role there.
Yeah. No, but I mean, really though, you start going to like like the middle of the day on like a Tuesday and you're like, well, let's go out in public, let's go do something. And you go to like a library story time and you're the dad at story time. And you're like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. No one here is isolating me. No one's not welcoming me. But
Mhm.
almost every room I'm going to walk into, I'm going to be the only male figure in this room. And there's this like, you're just different and different can easily lead to loneliness. And it also took me like a year to redefine that in myself. It's not like I started day one. I was like, I'm going to redefine success and masculinity. Like it took some time.
Yeah, well, we were touring around the US when he was a baby. My job, because my partner had to be up almost all night feeding and taking care of our son when he woke up, my job was to wake up with him at 6 a.m. in whatever town we were in and go find something to do and get out of there.
Uh-huh.
And So we saw the playgrounds in every city across America and zoos and whatever we could find to do. But I remember this one day we were in Salt Lake City and I had a stroller and I was pushing him around. And the way that women looked at me,
Mm-hmm.
there's like one of them was like, "Oh, it's Daddy's day out," and
Yeah.
like like almost like applauding, like, "Good for you, a man with a stroller. I've never seen that before." Like
Yep.
there was a piece of culture where even just for a man to be pushing a stroller, I didn't even have a baby Bjorn.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have one, but I wasn't using it at that moment. But yeah, it's a funny double standard, and it's one that I don't see going away anytime soon, but I do see like multiplicities and options. You can interact with humans in a way that dignifies
Yes.
men staying home
Yep.
or women staying home, not
Yep.
making assumptions about gender roles.
Correct. I think my wife and I always talk about the humor or dark humor of sometimes people will be like, "Oh, it's so good that you stay home with the kids," to me, but no one will ever go to my wife and be like, "It's really awesome that you found a job that supports a full family." Like, I'm
Right.
like, that's the only reason I can do this is because you've done this. So, like, why are you only focusing on one? And also, a man usually isn't told, like, "Hey, it's awesome you've been able to figure out how to provide for your family so your wife can stay home and make this her main priority." Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, what's the, you can praise more than one person in that scenario. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, uh, I think women, in all areas, I have no problem admitting that are generally privileged in pretty much every area
Yep.
in our society. And for women, there's so much guilt if they're
Hmm.
working, if they're
Yep.
not spending every hour with their children. And then there's guilt if they do. And, it's like a real damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Pretty much.
Whereas for dads, it's like, it might be like kind of a raised eyebrow, like, "Oh, you're staying home." But then in the follow up conversation, it's like, "Wow, what a gift to have so much time with your child." And like, you must be a really good person for
Correct.
doing that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's different for women for
Yeah.
sure.
Or like my favorite is if I take the kids to their like yearly doctor's appointments and I know all their birth dates quickly, and then nurses would be like, "Wow, how do you know that so quickly?" And I'm like, "Because I'm their dad. Like, I was there for all the births. I don't know how else to answer this without having cynicism in my voice. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know their birthdays. That's great. Sounds good."
Yeah.
What has like your therapy training look like? Did you say you did it online, or what's the process of actually getting like your therapy degree, and how have you managed that with like also being like I don't want to say primary parent, but kind of like the anchor since your wife does tour so much or your partner?
Yeah. I mean, the program that I used was a master's program from Walden University out of Minneapolis. And uh, if you want to be a therapist in the state of Tennessee, you have to either go for LMFT, which is marriage and family therapy, or LPC, which is licensed professional counselor. And the difference is licensed professional counselors are more clinically oriented. Like you're able to, if you get a certain designation, you're able to diagnose and you're
Uh-huh.
able to work with individuals with like a variety of like specific mental health issues. Like you could work with somebody with schizoaffective disorders, or you could work with, all of the different intense, the intense ones. Whereas marriage
Yeah.
and family therapy is more geared toward relationships and more geared toward family systems. It has a more systemic lens. So I am the first one, although I love marriage counseling. That's really fun, or couples counseling, I should say. It's really fun, but my real sweet spot is probably like kind of that one-on-one counseling, psychotherapy. And I use a variety of techniques. My supervision is in internal family systems, or IFS, which is a modality of counseling that's essentially parts work. You get to know these different parts of yourself and learn how to
Yeah.
relate to them
Yep.
and integrate them. It's incredible. It's a really effective tool for trauma. Some of my kind of specialties, I really love working with folks with religious trauma. I have a lot of LGBTQ clients. I work with a lot of artists, and I like trauma work. I do some EMDR. So I like kind of taking people back in time to where things were really hurting and helping them reprocess and integrate some of those experiences. And those feel really meaningful to me.
Yeah, I've read No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz, which I know is the IFS book almost. I feel like if you aren't a therapist, it's the easiest one to read and get a good grasp or concept.
Yeah. It's I recommend that book to my clients all the time. It's a great book.
I mean, it's fascinating. It also seems very helpful. I feel like he's very much like, hey, whenever this moment happens, your nervous system goes back to this version of yourself. So talk to that version of yourself. Like that's 8-year-old you responding right now. Talk to 8-year-old you. And I remember that mindset. I haven't gone through counseling or therapy in which I've gone that route before, but even just that concept of like, oh, that makes it so much sense. Why am I embarrassed by this moment? Why am I not wanting to confront this? Well, some part of you is actually the child version of you where the trauma started or the pain started from, and you just don't want to deal with it yet, and you need help.
Yeah, it's really interesting what comes to the surface with this kind of stuff. And some people are ready to go there, and for other people it's uncomfortable to try to do that, and to talk to a part of yourself feels weird to some people. It requires some amount of buy-in. So I also do just a lot of like pretty normal talk therapy, act therapy, values-based, person-centered kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever think, I feel like religious trauma based therapy has to be more of a new field. Is that newer? Because I don't feel like most
It
people talked
is.
about like deconstruction and all of that until within the past, what, like 5 or 6 years or so, really?
Yeah, well, the first academic paper on religious trauma was published in 1991.
Okay.
And since that year, things slowly snowballed. And then the past 10 years, it's like an avalanche kind of people realizing different ways that some religious contexts can create uh, a lot of trauma in people's lives. And there are people still untangling that at age 30, 40, 50, 60 till you die. It's a field that is getting more and more research around it. Like with therapy research, what happens is things happen. We all know that they're happening, and then eventually the scientific research catches up with the phenomenon that we see
Okay.
because it finally got enough funding to
Yeah.
do like a double blind test, and then they publish results and everybody's like, yeah, that tracks.
Not
um,
surprised.
and this is one of those things where I feel like it's that where we see similar things to what we see in PTSD with other kinds of trauma, because especially for people who were raised in high control religions where they were raised with a belief in eternal suffering, that belief in particular has a really destabilizing effect on, because your body doesn't feel safe. You're in fight or flight mode always, and you don't even realize you're there because you can't escape it. There's no safe place. So it's a really interesting form of complex trauma, and for some people it's not traumatic at all, and for other people it's very traumatic. So it's fascinating, and I love working with clients around that.
I'll relate to you on this. I also think big moments like that are fascinating to discuss with people. And then I'm like, did I really just tell someone that their religious trauma, their childhood trauma was like fascinating and I want to go on this journey with them? Is that a normal thing to communicate to someone? Because most of my friends aren't like, hey, let's talk about your religious trauma whenever you were growing up. And I'm like, let's talk about it. This is interesting. Let's do this.
Maybe you're destined to become a therapist. I don't
Maybe.
know. It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like
yeah.
if you can go on and you want to hear about people's trauma, that you could be.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
should
yeah.
get paid for it.
Maybe that'd be great. The main reason I reached out to you was to discuss kind of like the journey you go on whenever you become a dad and postpartum depression. We've had a couple of dads on here who I don't think they were technically diagnosed as postpartum depression or whatever the correct term is for it, but they did talk about how whenever they had a kid, they did feel fog, they felt depressed, they felt like they weren't helpful, and all of the negative emotions and feelings that came with it. So if you wanted to give like any brief overview or share some of your knowledge on that subject,
Yeah.
be appreciated.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say I'm not an expert on paternal postpartum depression, but I am a dad and I've had my own experiences, and I have had clients who are new dads as well. So that's where my experience is. This isn't like a specific area of expertise for
Okay.
me. However, I'll start with a personal story. The day after my son was born, I felt this intense pain in my mouth. Like there was a tooth that was just like, it was like nerve pain that was happening. And I went to the dentist. I was like, I think I have like a cavity or something. And they took x-rays and they're like, there's nothing wrong with your teeth. And they were like, have you been stressed out lately? And I was like, oh, well, my wife had a baby yesterday. And they were like, what are you doing here? Go home. And I'd been stressed out. It had been an all-night labor. It was incredibly hard to watch this person that you love really suffering and really having, my partner she was a rock star. She literally is an actual rock star, but she was a rock star in delivery as well.
Yeah.
And, but that process, like you're standing by and you're gritting your teeth. And there was so much tension that the dentist said that I had just bruised the muscles in my jaw from stress and from sleeping poorly, and all of that added up to going in pain. So I share that to say, one of the classic definitions of trauma is to have an experience where you are faced with potential death or harm in a visceral way, which is why a lot of veterans have it, or why people who are in a car accident might develop PTSD. But the birthing process is bloody and scary, and so many things can go wrong. And the doctors are telling you, there's meconium in the sac, and like, what's meconium? I don't know. Well, this bilirubin count is low. I don't know what that is either. Like, and all these emergencies just flying at you, and you're like, you're just like, is my baby going to live? Is my partner going to live? Like, these are actual real fears that you're spending an amount of time sitting with. And so the process of delivery on both partners can be traumatic in and of itself. And I think that's important to say because, it gets outshined by the fact that you have this new little life that you're responsible for, and that's wonderful. But it comes about in a way that can really leave a mark, and that does leave a mark. You're just kind of in delirium afterwards, and there's stress and there's sleeplessness, and for a lot of men, there's anxiety about, now I've got to provide for this new addition to my family, or I have to be a dad. I don't know how to be a dad. Or even for men, especially men who their partners are their primary, like, best friend, suddenly there's this interloper in that relationship. And so your friendship changes too. And it's a tremendous amount of change, not to mention what's happening chemically. There's hormonal changes in men during pregnancy and after. Your testosterone lowers to make you a more caring and nurturing parent. It does for women as well, but for women and men alike during pregnancy, testosterone goes lower. Oxytocin increases. That's that bonding chemical. You also have an increase in cortisol. That's your stress hormone, so that you can be ready to deal with whatever it is. And there's just a lot of these. So no, you don't have this cataclysmic drop in estrogen like women do. But you've got this, like, adjusting, and men don't even realize, even prolactin, that's the chemical that has to do with creating milk. Prolactin raises in men as well.
Yeah.
So there's all these things going on with our hormones, and it is overshadowed usually by the more intense hormonal shifts that are happening in the person who delivered the baby. Who birthed the baby, I should say. But it's real. It's measurable scientifically, and it tends to show up a little bit later for men than for women. So women will begin with postpartum depression. They can begin like a few weeks to a few months. For men, it starts around like 3 to 6 months afterwards. And the characteristic of postpartum depression that makes it different from, I'm having a hard time adjusting to having this child, right? The thing that makes it specifically postpartum is trouble bonding with the baby. Because there's a million reasons why you might be anxious, or you might be depressed, or you might be having these different issues, and they would be technically diagnosed as like an adjustment disorder, or an anxiety disorder, or a depressive disorder. And it might be one of those things, or all three of those things. And that's, for most men, I would probably assume that something like that is going on. They're adjusting to this new life. But in about 8 to 13% of men, there's an aspect of it that has to do with I look at this baby and I just am not feeling anything.
Yeah.
Don't know how to bond with it. I don't feel what I'm supposed to feel. There's a lot of shame. Interestingly enough, if your partner is going through postpartum depression, if your female partner is going through postpartum depression, you as a male are 50% more likely to also experience
Really?
postpartum depression. Yeah. So there's a
Oh,
correlation there between your partner is looking at this kid having really dark or difficult thoughts, and it's almost like contagious where like something happens in you as well. And there's this kind of collaborative
yeah.
detachment. So it is definitely, especially if you have a partner, and for your partner, it'll show up a little earlier, like weeks after the baby's born. And I would definitely say men should be on higher alert if they notice that their partner has symptoms
Yeah.
of postpartum depression. There's a much better chance that you could develop that as well.
Yeah. Now, I mean, even you saying that with like watching your wife give birth, our partner, our first kid, the labor was 26 hours and she was 10 days early. And that was the first time, like, and it started with my wife's water breaking. So, like, none of it went the way we thought it would go. And it was the first time ever in my life in which someone expected me to make a medical decision on behalf of my wife. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not, or like, does she want a C section? I'm like, can we do it vaginally? Because we did every part of our birth plan. C-section isn't the route we were hoping to go. We were hoping to go natural, vaginal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that I just holding that stress, even of like, hey, what does your wife want to do? And you're like, well, she's got the epidural she didn't expect to get. She's asleep right now.
Mhm.
I don't like, why, like, do I have the, like, then you go through this whatever in your head of like, should I be speaking on this for my wife? Because this her body, it's not mine. And then at the end, you're handed a kid and you're just like, this
Yeah.
is not the journey I expected to get here. This was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that feeling of the nurse came out to our car and checked that the car seat was properly installed.
Yep.
It's such a weird thing that happens. I didn't realize that happened after births. And I was like, you want to go in my car? Why? And then they like hand me the baby. And I just have this memory of driving home with this tiny baby
Tiny.
strapped in. And I'm just like driving very safe, well under the speed. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
is this allowed? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like I was breaking a rule. Like, I shouldn't be allowed to take this home, this tiny child home with me. I don't know how to do any of this. Even though I had taken classes and I prepared in every way, but there was still something in that moment after the intensity of birth where I was just in a fog. I was in a haze. And it wasn't for me, it wasn't postpartum depression. For me, it was stress. It's a stressful experience.
Yep. Yeah. It's almost like it's more like the come down from, it's like the inertia of being tense, being heightened, feeling like, I mean, in a hospital room, nurses are walking in and out as well they should be like every 5 minutes. So like then you're dealing with strangers who are talking about the health of your wife and child.
Yeah, but for men, I think we feel a little self-conscious
Uh-huh.
because it's not as for our bodies, the changes are nowhere near as dramatic as for the woman's body. And we feel like we should suck it up and shut up and whatever we can to provide for these needs. And a lot of times that mentality creates a condition where, as a man, as a new dad, you're not listening to your body. You're not realizing depression is there when depression is there. You're not having a healthy relationship with anxiety. You're not processing the changes between you and your partner that could potentially lead to a lot of isolation, changing marriage dynamic. There's just 1,000 ways your life changes. And if you don't find a way to process that and to be present with that, it will add up somewhere under the surface and explode at a time. And that could look like long-term depression. It could look like you're just a really high-strung dad who's just like
Uh-huh.
planning and like just high blood pressure type of dude. But my advice for young dads is always like find somebody other than your partner that
Mm-hmm.
you can speak to candidly about it, find community, and find therapy. Therapy is
Yeah.
great. Therapy doesn't have to be expensive. There's a lot of options.
Whenever you had a kid, how much time did you guys take off the road before you went back into like your full career and
Oh
like
my God.
normal state of life?
I I think it was like between 6 and 8 weeks. Maybe like 8 weeks we went back on the road.
Yeah.
And it was intense.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole other podcast
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
that my partner should do about being a mom on the road.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it wasn't that long, and he was tiny.
Yeah. I mean, I think I didn't start becoming a stay-at-home dad until our second kid was 1 year old. And I think for our first two kids, they both started daycare or we both went back to work or whatever, whenever it was like 8 weeks or so. And I still remember how tiny, how raw everything felt that like, yeah, to the thought of getting on a tour bus with a child that little and both of you having your definitions of everything changed so much, I'm sure was a whole other podcast episode to discuss.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think I touched on it briefly, but sleep deprivation affects everything
Yeah.
in a huge way. You're not sleeping well. I remember those early days driving him around in the car at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
just to try to get him to sleep because he would fall
Mm-hmm.
asleep in his car seat. So
Yep.
he would be up. My partner would be in tears because she needed rest desperately and hadn't been asleep for more than 45 minutes in like several weeks. And I would just take him out of the house. Let's go. And at 2 a.m., driving through my neighborhood
Yep.
with this kid, trying to listen to like soothing ambient music or something.
Yep.
But I mean, it's crazy. Nobody
Yeah.
is meant to live like that long
No.
term. It's of course it's going to impact your mental health. Of course it's going to impact your physical health.
Yeah. Our firstborn is a February birthday. So I remember instead of taking her into the car, I put her in the stroller and walked around. And my wife had like just finished nursing. It was like, yeah, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So she went to go try to get whatever sleep she could get. And then the baby started crying. And I was like, I'm just going to put her in the stroller and walk around in a circle in our house and hope that she falls back asleep. And I think after 30 minutes, she was still crying. My wife walked out and I was like, I'm trying. Like I'm so, like I know this isn't about me in any way, but like genuinely, I really wanted you to get some sleep. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean that brings up a really important piece of it, which is that men in general want to feel useful.
Uh-huh.
And for many men, those months immediately after your child is born, you feel the least useful you've ever felt in your life. And there's real need. Your partner is in tears. Your partner needs something that you're not able to provide. Your partner needs relief. And this child that is suddenly the center of your world, you are useless to them. Like they do not,
They don't care.
they don't care at all. They want mom. And
Yep.
you know that can shift and change in later years, but at least in the beginning, men have to deal with a feeling pretty useless and feeling like, what's my job now? I knew my job before. Now I've got to figure out something else.
Yeah. And I think like that's the advice I'll normally give people who are about to become a dad is like, hey, you're probably thinking you're going to do stuff for the baby constantly and that's how you're helpful. It's actually what you do for your wife for the next 6 months that is probably what's going to be the most helpful. And the kid is a big part of that. But if you expect to be a source of comfort for your child whenever they're this young, you might be disappointed some days. And just be aware that that might be your future. Can't take it personally. You just got to shift how you're helpful. And it's a journey to figure out how you're actually helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice.
One of my favorite comments I've ever had on this podcast was Sean Newsom, the guy who runs Hi-Fi Cookies. And he was like, my lawn had never been mowed so many times whenever we had a newborn. Cause I was just constantly like, I got to do something to help. What can I do to help? I guess I'll mow the lawn. I don't know. Like cause you are, I mean, it feels like a stereotype to say that men are action oriented, but like we do like to have the ability to do something actionable that you then leads to positive results. And sometimes you mow the lawn 2 times in a week because you're running out of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really unique time and
It
it's a
is.
beautiful time, but yeah, it's a time that often goes unexamined because so much emphasis is on the mother and the
And
child.
rightfully so. But yeah.
Rightfully so. But yeah, the big changes affect everybody.
Yeah. What like resources do exist out there for men, or like what signs should a man look for if they might be questioning if they are having postpartum depression?
I mean, honestly, I think that if you're feeling like something's not quite right,
Yeah.
you should go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like it's been 6 weeks that I have been feeling like less attachment to my child. Like really it's just like a sense that
Okay.
goes off. And if you have a sense that something's off, if you have a sense that you're just struggling emotionally, it might be time to go talk to somebody. There are a lot of resources that I want to kind of mention. So
Yeah.
well, first of all, let me plug the practice where I work.
Yeah. Please.
It's called Center for Authentic Growth, and it's in Creve Hall. And we see all kinds of people with all kinds of issues. And I really love this practice. It's such a special community. And then I also want to talk about getting therapy for cheaper or for free. And there are organizations. If you're a professional musician, there's Music Cares. There's also Porter's Call down in Franklin. Both of those, you can apply and show proof of your professional musicianship. They each have different criteria, but they will get you free mental health care. And they're really good about working with musicians. For the LGBTQ community, there is an organization called Healing in the Margins that also offers scholarships for therapy. And I also want to mention Open Path Collective. Open Path is a website that offers discounted therapy sessions, like between $30 to $70 a session. And these are people who they might be clinical interns, where it's like at the end of your master's experience, you have to intern somewhere and you do it at a reduced rate. And I want to plug all the interns out there, because nobody wants to feel like they're an experiment. Like you don't want to go to somebody who has very little experience as a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
But these people are affordable, they're committed, they're invested, they're not making a dime from whatever you're paying. That's all going to the practice. So in some ways, it's kind of the purest form of therapy. These are people who are in it because they love it. And even though they're new, they've been highly educated and highly trained. So I want to encourage, if cost is a really big barrier to you seeking therapy, there are interns all over our city here that are seeing people for heavily discounted rates. And I was one of them, and I had a great caseload, and I saw people with a variety of problems and presenting issues, and I think I was good at it. I think I did a good job.
Yeah. 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 I thought Lipscomb also did something like that as well, because I thought they had a family therapy program
Hmm.
as well, and they
They
have
do,
their
yeah.
students in which you can do it for a cheaper rate or for not as much financially on you.
Yeah, yeah, all of the above.
Yes, but I think it's genuinely awesome, because I think more men are willing to think about, or I have the belief and optimism that more men are willing to realize, like, hey, that thing that keeps recurring in my head that I can't get past, I might actually need help. I might actually need to talk to someone. And then whenever someone like you is like, hey, by the way, here's all the resources. What are your barriers? Is a barrier cost? Hey, here are some ways you can help. You're a musician? Cool. Here's Music Cares. Here's all this stuff of like, people don't want you to suffer and be alone. And people are creating ways for you to make things accessible to you.
Yeah, and it just that whole, when we talk about these issues, especially with postpartum, it's about you're experiencing disconnection. You're experiencing disconnection between yourself and the child, between yourself and your partner, and you're internally disconnected from your own body and from your own emotions. And the only way to process through disconnection is through connection. And we create connections between the therapist and the client. You can also create connections with family members and friends, but that interrelating is really what changes things. It's not some like fancy theory. It's not, I mean, medication is great and I love medication and use medication, but it's not human connection. And really what we're talking about, all of this, we're talking about human connection. And so if you're in a place where you're not being heard, where you are silently kind of suffering or feeling anxiety or feeling like I don't want to bother my wife because she's so burdened anyway, but I feel awful, reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So To end the episode, how we end every episode is we ask every guest a series of 5 questions. They're pretty lighthearted. They're pretty fun.
Okay.
And
Ready.
the first one is, did you have any backup names for your son? Like, did you have any names that you almost named him?
The closest one that came out was Killian.
That's so
We were
Irish.
we were
Yeah.
going with Irish. We were leaning into Irish pretty hard
Yeah.
because his mom is half Irish, and so we were thinking about some Irish names. We did not go with that one.
Killian, or would you call it, do you always pronounce it like the harsh, or do you more of like a Cillian? Do you do Killian or Cillian?
I think from what I understand, the correct way is
Yeah.
the hard
That's what I
C.
thought. Okay, yeah, because it's for Killian Murphy. I always want to call him Cillian Murphy. And then I'm like, I feel like
Yeah.
this is wrong. Everything I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite TV or movie dad?
Ooh, favorite TV or movie dad? I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, you can't really. He is everything, you know. He is a dad. He's a nanny. He's fun.
Have you
Yeah,
you
just
watched that from the perspective actually as a dad now of being like, you're kind of a dad, like you more side with Sally Field than Robin. As a kid, you always sided with Robin Williams, but now as like an adult, I'm like, dude, you kind of like, you could have taken some steps to avoid the divorce, the separation.
You know what? I have not watched that since becoming an adult
Okay.
and dad, and so my recollection is as like a, I don't know, 9-year-old.
Yes.
And what I took away from that is like that divorce is like when your dad dresses up as a woman to try to get you back from the really tricky situation. I
That's
don't know if I totally
amazing.
understood what was happening.
You should rewatch it as an adult and just view it. But whenever you watch it, be Sally Field or be the mom in this scenario in which you just got divorced from your husband because he wasn't present for the kids. And now he finally decides to be present for the kids by cross-dressing and faking who he is. And just, I'd be like, I'd be so mad. I would be so annoyed if that was my scenario. But that's not how I interpreted this movie at all as a child.
Yeah. No, he was the hero.
He was the hero. Always the hero. Next question. What's your go-to replacement curse word? Whenever you step on the Lego and you didn't expect to step on a Lego and you're about to say a word, do you just say the word?
What do I say? It's usually like a choked, like, "Argh." My son knows the words. He doesn't use them, but he is very curious. We watched A Christmas Story this past year.
Yes.
And, there's a word that features really prominently, the F word, into that. And my son thought that fudge was actually the F word. And he was like, well, how do we say it if we're going to eat it? So it was this whole, I had to explain, like, that's not really the word. And he's like, well, what is?
No,
Like,
not
I wasn't
today.
prepared to tell my 7-year-old, but I did. I was like, you're going to hear it at some point. So I'm going to tell you. And this is a word that we use, and these are the contexts when it's appropriate, and you will get in a lot of trouble in pretty much any context you use it in right now at 7 years old. So don't use it. But here it is.
Isn't it great to rationally explain something to your child that you don't want them to do in hopes that you explain it logically enough that they won't do it one day? Full knowledge they will do it one day?
Yeah. I mean, 2 weeks after this, he was like, Dad, I really want to say it. It just feels so good to say it. And I was like, yeah, it's the best curse word for a reason.
It is. It is. But also, there's this thing called consequences that will happen. And most of them is trying to not get you beat up in a schoolyard or something like that, or grounded and expelled. So that's what I'm hoping for, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about boundaries.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, next question. Besides Legos, what's like a favorite kids' toy activity that you do with your son?
I think my favorite one right now is honestly my favorite one right now is reading together still. Like
That's fun.
It's like a pre-bedtime activity, reading aloud. I do all the voices I can.
Does he let you do voices?
He does, yeah.
Oh, what a
He
gift.
prefers when I do voices. I will say we started Harry Potter for a minute, and those voices are hard. Like you got to be able to do like a Scottish accent. You got to be able to do like, I mean, yeah, it's just very, and my wife and I have competitions over like who does the best Hagrid or who does the best like Dumbledore, and we've got to like who does the best Voldemort. Excuse me, He Who Must Not Be Named.
Come on, man, you're only in the first book. You can't say his real name yet.
But yeah, I really enjoy that aspect. I also enjoy we do some like impromptu dance parties, and he's obsessed with Jelly Roll's song "Run It." he'll literally listen to it on repeat 40 times in a row. And I'm losing my mind. Like, this is like within the past 48 hours that he's decided it's his favorite song.
Yeah.
I want him to love music, but I want him to listen to more than one song at a time.
I, in the car, have a rule of, because a lot of kids' music is like maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, something like that. So if you've got a 30-minute car ride and they only want to listen to one song, you're listening to that song like 20 times. So I have a rule with all the kids to be like, you can only listen to a song 3 times in a row. After the 3rd time in a row,
Okay.
I got to shut it down.
Yeah.
But also, though, whenever they get really happy, whenever you play it again, I'm like, am I the jerk?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The wet blanket.
Exactly. But also, though, I don't want to hear this My Little Pony song 10 times on this drive. So I got to mix it up somehow.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. And then last question. Is there a moment of your son's life you're like most excited for him to experience or to see him do or become in his life?
I like that question. I think I'm really excited to travel with my son. You know, we've gone to like Legoland and stuff, but like when he gets older, I'm really looking forward to taking him to Paris for the first time, or taking him to, you know, like the cool places. I used to live in China, taking him to Beijing for the
Cool.
first time, and like, you know, just showing him, seeing him in those new contexts, seeing synapses fire. Hopefully, my wife and I really love traveling, and so I'm excited about him getting. I think it'll just be a couple more years now before he can eat more than 6 foods, and you know.
Or he doesn't need ketchup or cheese with everything.
Yes. That's we always tell him, like, well, we want to take you on these trips, but you got to eat more than chicken nuggets and pizza first.
Yep. Well, also, it's funny that you want to travel with him because you spent most of his early life traveling. So, but also traveling with an 8-week-old versus a 8-year-old is drastically different.
Yeah, for sure.
So only other thing for you is self-promotion, I guess, if like you have like an Instagram account for your therapy stuff, how to find you, how to get in contact with you.
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram account that I'm not like an influencer, but I have it so that people can find me. And it's at Good Heart Mental Health. Good Heart Mental Health, one word. And you can reach out to me there to get connected. You could also reach out to me through the Center for Authentic Growth. I also have a Psychology Today profile, but I'm happy to, at this moment in time, I do have openings for clients and I'm happy to work with, or even just consult. You know, we do free consultations. So if you are going through something and you're like, maybe I could talk to somebody about this, just give me a call. It's we can chat about it for 15 minutes and I can say, I don't think this would be a good fit, or I say, let me refer you to my friend who specializes in this. Yeah, I would love to talk to any and all people who are looking to address mental health issues.
Yeah, it's just funny because I had to realize that at some point in time that the therapist also wants it to be a good fit. So like a consultation, be like, hey, tell me what you're going through. I want like the therapist also wants to be the right resource for you.
Yeah.
Like, so
I have no problem saying, not for me. Like that's
Yeah.
not, we're not a match.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen often, but I think it is really important to note that not every therapist is going to be a match. I always tell potential clients, like, shop around. Like, this is like a date. Like, if the first session is weird or awkward, probably not a good match.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I didn't really connect in our session. I'm going to look somewhere else. Like therapists get ghosted all the time.
Really, instead of the real conversation. Yeah.
It feels so much better to have a client say, hey, I'm just not really feeling it. I'm going to look somewhere else. That feels to me much more like I'm a person, you know?
Yeah, man, that's all I got for you. Thanks so much
All
for
right.
spending some time with me. Perfect.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. All right. Well,
Awesome.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you as well, Jason. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Imperfect Dads Podcast, and make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to us, such as Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. The music is provided by The Wild Feathers, and all episodes are produced by me. Make sure to tune in Mondays for new episodes.